Right, bit of an impromptu video on suspension. Didn't necessarily intend on doing this video, but I've just driven this. So this is Eric's van from Transporter HQ Europe. This has been over in England for a while. We've been doing some bits and developing some left-hand drive parts on it, lower handbrake brackets and various other bits for it. So I've just driven it back from the UK to here to The Hague, and the drive was awful. And it's the suspension basically. So I thought I'd do a video explaining the importance of quality suspension when you've got a full camper like this. So this camper's particularly heavy in the back because of the van furniture setup and the roof and everything that makes campers heavier. So getting the suspension right is key to making the ride right. We spend so much money on these things. I mean, these things are worth tens of twenties, thousands of pounds or euros, and then we go and put 300-400 quid suspension on it. Just doesn't make sense. Or we leave the stock suspension on it, which isn't really designed to carry a permanent weight. Genuine VW suspension is designed to carry infrequent loads, whereas we're loading them up and keeping them permanently loaded up. So we're going to pull this in now. Eric and Marco, it's Marco's birthday. We've dragged him on his birthday today. We're going to fit this Solow NSL suspension to that. It's a new suspension that's come out. NSL's not so low, so if you don't want to go crazy low and you don't want to you have your standard height coilover, you want somewhere in between, as Eric does on this. He wants something a bit lower but not silly and comfortably low. So we're going to put the NSL suspension on this, show you what it looks like and give you a description of how it rides and how it should look and how much better it's going to be than this suspension that's on it now. So I'll hand you over to Eric and Marco. They're going to get the suspension on. When you've got all that weight and your vehicle's pitched backwards, I mean, it's effectively like your vehicle's doing a wheelie. It's not, but with all that weight in the vehicle, the weight at the back, lifting the front ever so slightly, although you drive wheels and those wheels are pulling your vehicle forward and also directing it, the ride just isn't pretty. It's not nice at all with all that weight, with the way it bounces when it goes over bumps. So having your vehicle sit level or even ever so slightly higher at the back makes a massive difference to the ride quality. Pairing that with the comfort that you get from a developed coilover. So some people think that when Bilstein make a coilover, they make race car suspension, so therefore they're making suspension that's going to ride like a race car. Well, that's not the case. They're using the technology that they know from making race car suspension to make something comfortable that's designed for the purpose that we want them for, and that's to have comfort and massively reduce your body roll, reduce your centre of gravity by bringing the vehicle down, reduce the sway of the vehicle that you get with standard suspension and with cheap suspension. But quality coilovers, as I said, and I repeat, I don't know how many times, it's the first thing I do when I buy a van. If I don't stick it on air suspension, the first thing I do is I put good quality coilovers on it, because regular standard suspension makes me feel sick. Cheap coilovers makes me feel even more sick. We want these things to ride nice. A lot of us, like me, drive these vehicles as dailies. We don't have a car, we drive a van as a daily, therefore we want it to drive as nice as a Golf or an Audi or a, whatever, luxury vehicle. And that's the intention of good quality coilovers. So don't you just love technology? So right now you'll be watching a video of me somewhere down here or down there, wherever they place it, with no audio, where I was over in Holland explaining how important and how good this Solow NSL suspension was and the reasons why, and the microphone didn't work. Whereas ordinarily I could just come out here and refilm it again, but I can't just fly over to Holland to film that section again. So here I am in front of Steve's van. Without trying to do some bad lip syncing kind of thing, I just thought
I can't help it. I just now sat on gum.
Leave that bit running in the corner and I'll try and explain or try and remember what I was explaining and using Steve's van as an example. So the reason why Steve's van is so relevant here is because this was the original van that had the Solow NSL on. So going back, your original standard coilovers that everybody would see would lower a van about 70 mil. And what would happen was people would lower their van. They'd think they want to lower their van 70 mil, so they'd put it on the absolute lowest setting. Well, that's not where the most comfort is. That's not where your piston compression is best. That's not how the spring is really designed to work to get the most comfort in it. So then you'd have the Solow low, which everybody loved, but they'd set them on the highest setting because they wanted to be somewhere in between. They didn't want to be like Solow low was originally designed to go really low. So that was where the Solow NSL came in. We decided to make a damper that sat in between the two. So whereas your Solow low is a shortened damper from a standard, this one is slightly longer, but not as long as your regular coilovers like the new Solow NXT, which gives you a 65mm drop at the standard at the lowest point. The Solow NSL sits in between the two, so it's become already, as much as we can't physically, Bilstein can't build stock quick enough for us, such a popular suspension, because most people want to go lower than a regular coilover, and they don't really want to be buying a regular coilover and sit it on the lowest setting because it's just not where it's comfortable, and they don't want to be going so low and winding it up. They want to sit somewhere in between the two. So Steve's van has had this Solow NSL suspension on for probably 8 months now, and it took us that long to be absolutely happy with it. We wanted it to be tested fully loaded. This vehicle regularly has loads of stuff in the back, so it's heavy, or empty, and test it with various different conditions, so we knew that it would be good whether it was going in a full camper or whether it was going in a combi or a day van or empty panel van. So going back to Holland and going back to showing you what's on Eric's van there, you'll see in the back there we've got the van furniture, which is really important. If you've got a van that's got a weight in it like we do, a continuous heavy weight, suspension is key to make that ride quality. Cheap coilovers and regular suspension becomes very bouncy because it's not designed to take that permanent load that we have when we put rib bed in it, or rusty bed, or pop top roofs and cupboards and all the things that we do to make them a permanent load. So you want comfort, and that's why it's important to have not just the Solow NSLs, but however you want to sit the vehicle. A good quality coilover is so important with a camper van, more than it is with a combi and with a day van, because we're putting it under that permanent load, and the standard suspension isn't designed to have that permanent load constantly to give us the comfort that we need. So go again, the Dutch van there, that's probably got the wrong size wheels and tyres that I would go for on that. That's got a 255/35 profile tyre, but with the NSL I would go 275. Originally Eric was going to have the low on it, and then after discussions we decided with what he was going to do with it, he wanted to be that little bit higher with the NSL, so the tyre size eventually will change on that van there. We'll put a 275/30, so I would go 275/35 on a 20. Steve's van here on the NSLs has actually had a load of additional work to get lower. This van's going on air in the next few weeks, but Steve has just constantly been chasing low. It was hard work for him to keep the NSLs on for so long because he really wanted to go lower, because like me, he likes the vehicle to look really low, and it's looking good, but it's going to look even better when it's on air. But going back to the whole point of this video, quality coilovers is key. NSL is one of the ones that's worth considering because the damper is shorter along with the spring, so you don't get that kind of crashy ride, and you can get the look that you want with the ride quality you would expect from a product that we've developed with Bilstein, with the Solow branding. So we know it looks good, but importantly, how does it ride? Once the suspension was fitted to the Dutch van, we sent Eric out for a test drive in it. So Eric's had this van for many years and he's had the previous suspension on it. So I said to Eric, go and take it for a test drive. He got back and I said, cameras off, give me your 100% true honest opinion. What do you think of the suspension? In fact, he didn't need to say it, he didn't need to verbalise it. I could see in his face, I could see in his smile what he thought of it, and he said it's night and day different. It's so much better than what was on there before. That's the important thing about these vehicles. We spend tens of thousands of pounds converting them into campers or combis or whatever they are, and then we go and put cheap suspension on it. It just doesn't make sense. When you're driving these things around, whether you're using them as daily, whether you're going to a campsite, if you're going camping, you're not camping in the field next to your house, you're camping 3 or 4 hours drive away, and you want that to be comfortable and to be able to handle the weight and everything that we put in the back, and be able to handle the long distances, whether it's a cobbly street or whether it's a motorway with undulations and dips. We want that to be comfortable, and that's where quality coilovers are so important for the ride and the enjoyability and the usability of these vehicles. I hope you've enjoyed this video despite the technical glitches, and I'm sorry it's been so disjointed. Regardless, please do like the video. I hope it was useful to you if you're thinking of changing your suspension. Happy to offer as much advice as we can on this suspension or any others, so if you've got any questions, please do comment below. I try and answer as many questions as I possibly can. I try and answer them all wherever possible. So any questions you've got about Solow suspension or any other suspension on a van, whether it be springs, adjustable spring sets, coilovers, lift, you name it, you just mention it and I'll do my best to answer those questions. Please like the video because it helps YouTube show it to more people. Subscribe to the channel, ring that little bell when you get notifications when new videos come out. Bunch of new videos, new video on this van here because of the new suspension, air suspension, and the management that's going to go on it, a Solow collaboration management that we've done that's going to go on this van. A whole new video explaining the whole entire Solow range is coming. It's actually produced, but we've kind of held off on it because we don't have enough stock really to keep up with demand at the minute. So a video that's going to explain the new Solow Low, NSL, NXT, and also the Solow Lift, and a little bit more about the Solow air suspension to be in that video. So do subscribe to that channel and ring the bell to get updates as and when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for watching.